Hi and welcome to my channel, beautiful people. This channel is where I explore the self and the higher self aspects of the human being, of the individual, from the perspective of the Vedas and the Vedic tradition, using Vedic astrology, how we can uncover the self and move on to the higher self, how we can resolve the past karma and how we can go beyond it. This is an exploration of Vedic tradition based on 20 plus odd years of my study of the Vedas and all the Vedic tradition, and also evolving past the point of karma itself. Karma is what we are trying to resolve, but beyond that is the higher self. We are moving now towards new energies, and in these new energies, how do we use the secret codes in the ascendant, the secret codes in our charts and the planetary systems using Vedic astrology to evolve past the base human tendencies and move into the higher knowledge. And what are we doing this for? For that one individual in right there in the center to develop and understand the new human being as they truly are born. That's the target. That's what we are continuously aiming to achieve in this channel. So I'll cover some basics here, but before I go forward, I want to just cover some housekeeping points. If you're watching this on one of my podcasts, I have linked up the description box, the YouTube channel link on the description box so that you can follow the presentation. The reason why I do these screen shares is so that you can understand it more pictorially. We understand better in pictures and how it's presented. It spurs an intuitive understanding inside of us. Oh, and you have different kind of epiphanies. Oh, I didn't know about this, or I didn't know about that. Because most of these things I'm getting intuitively now, lots of them day by day, if you ask me. So just follow the YouTube link on the description box, as there are many listeners of the podcast, and then you will see the full picture. Okay. So back to covering some basics here. We have the first house to 12th house as shown in the North Indian diamond style depiction of Vedic astrology charts. First house to the 12th house. We also saw so far that we have two halves in the chart, as you can see here, the night half and the day half. The day half, that is the house number, half of 7th house till the half of first house, is all our external aspects, what we bring to the external world. It's the right side of the body, it's masculine in nature, it's creative, it's action, it's external. This is one half. We stand right here in this axis of east to west. So this is where the human being stands. So right half of the body is also this side, okay? The left half of the body is feminine. The left half of the chart is feminine. It's intuitive, it's reflective, it's internal. So using these parts, we are moving constantly in this world of duality that the soul comes and embodies. Remember, the soul has no duality, it's in oneness all the time. But we are here in the physical form, embodied, to uncover this path, to make it a higher evolutionary path. That's the final goal here, folks. To get to the new human being who's more creative, who's more compassionate, who's more embodied within oneself. So that's the goal here. The final goal is this new human being. So left side and right side of the body. Now, I also want you to upfront understand that if the planets and points, these planets that are shown here on the left side, if they are more in the left side of your chart, what this means in simplistic terms is you have more energies which you bring from yourself and you will portray this in the outside world. And if it's on the right side of the chart, more planets are there, more percentage of planets are on the right side of the chart, it means that you are here more to learn from the external and bring it towards yourself. Because each planet has a reflective effect. It has a 7th aspect where it looks at the opposite house. So all of these planets which are in the external also will teach you and make you grow internally. In simplistic terms, that's what it means. Okay, we will uncover this as we go along in the further presentations. So I want you to keep this picture in mind of the left side and the right side half of the human. And we have the house and meanings, which we covered in the previous one, which will also link up here in the video if you want to look at that. As you can see, the first house, let me just remove the left and right side apart. It becomes too confusing here. Okay, so you have the, as you can see, the opposite effects. The left side, as we saw, has all your family, your abilities, your mother and heart, which is on the left side, fourth house. The father and the head stands for the 10th house. The external presence of work in the world. The mother is the heart, where your home is, where your homeland is. And so on and so forth. So the left half and the right half, I want you to pay attention, because the left half has everything to do with you, your home, your mother, your abilities, your family, your creativity, your work for yourself, your waking hours. Coming to the right half, the opposite houses have opposite kind of attributes. The second house, if it's your family, 8th house stands for others' family. That's why they call it also the in-laws, because it's the gain of the 7th house. If second house stands for stability, 8th house stands for instability of life, the ups and downs. If second house stands for your earned wealth, what you're going to earn, 8th house stands for others' wealth. And you will see this pattern everywhere. You'll see in the 3rd and 9th house, you'll see in the 4th and 10th house, 5th and 11th house, and 6th and 12th house. These are opposite aspects. Left half of the chart is all about yourself, how you develop yourself, what you're born with, what you can reflectively, internally understand, create, etc. Your creativity comes here, your work comes here. How it shows up in the external world comes in the right half, called the day half. This is also the zodiac and how it's represented here, because sun rises in the east and sets in the west here. So at the top of the peak of the afternoon, where the sun is shining above the head, this represents the south of the zodiac, not south as in north, south, east, west directions of the earth, but south of the zodiac. The north of the zodiac is at the midnight point, okay, of the chart. That's the way it is arranged. The next fundamental thing which we speak of is the Vedic astrology concept of the Kendras and the Konas. The Kendra in Sanskrit means the foundation, the foundational pillars which hold the building of your life, of yourself. These 4 houses, first house, 4th house, 7th house, and 10th house, are called the Kendra houses, or the foundational houses. These foundational houses form the basis of your existence, what you are, what your spouse is, or your love interest, or your romantic partnerships are, who your mother is, or your home or your homeland is, and what's your career, your father, your 10th house is. These 4 form the basis. This diamond blue triangle shaded in the center. So this is what goes on in every chart. And what about the rest of them? These white ones are called the Trikonas, or the Konas for short. Trikona means triangles. These are all, as you can see, different triangles. The Trikona part of your life is what you take and give to the world. This you give to the world. This you are born with, or you cultivate, or your abilities depending upon where the planets are placed. This is the fundamentals of Vedic astrology I'm sharing. Okay, the basic fundamentals for all those who do not know anything about Vedic astrology. This is the way they understand it. Because now we are going to go ahead and move into the higher self part of it. You can follow the playlist of all the previous ones to get the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha that I have spoken of in different ascendants. But now we are going to go a step deeper. This is like a code. We are uncovering codes in secret. So follow this. I will put this as a general video of the basics of astrology of discovering the higher self. And then as we move forward, this video will be very useful to you in uncovering which part of your life you're looking at. Are you looking at yourself? Are you looking at others? And how you evolve into a higher self human being using Vedic astrology tools. And my personal interest in this is from a personality point of view, is a motivational point of view. Because what I strongly get intuitively is unless we know where we are and unless we know what the directions as coded in our birth charts, in our natal charts, unless we know that specifically and work with it, these areas of your life and the times and the transitions that occur will make no sense at all to you or to anyone for that matter. It may never made any sense to me personally. I'm like, why are these things coming and going? Why are these people coming and going in my life? Why are the events of my life changing? Now I'm uncovering all of this through the Vedas as well as the Vedic astrology and bringing it to you. Keep following my channel because there's lots more coming. And you can even subscribe to my podcast if you just listen to the audio and try to absorb this. And it requires a lot of reflection, really. The more you reflect on this, I'm finding that the more it reveals itself. The knowledge comes forward if you reflect deeply upon it. Okay. Now, with that, I will leave this introductory astrology as a separate video on the channel. You can watch this along with the other ones. You can revisit this anytime. And thank you for all your likes, shares, and subscribes on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. And I will see you on the next one where we begin the Higher Self series. Take care, be safe, and have a great day. Welcome to part 2 of the Higher Self series of teaching. So in part 1, we covered the different houses, as you can see on the screen here. Number 1 to number 12, and what do they stand for? So in this one, we'll begin to jump into the higher self aspects, or how one house or aspects of a house will feed into the another house as results. What is accomplished in one house and how it feeds into the other houses. Very important to remember here as we go through this higher self aspects of the house is to remember the opposite aspects, because the opposite aspects feed into different houses, as we shall see. So the first one becomes that the self and the other self. You as an individual and everybody who is around you. But 7th house is to do more with spouse. It has more to do with romantic relationships. It has more to do with intimate relationships and what you see as a reflection of yourself in the next one who's staying with you, who has close connections with you. It may be even a business partnership, by the way. 7th house also stands for business partnerships. So this is how it feeds itself. Now briefly, what is this first one about? The first one is about the self looking at itself. The first from the first house is itself. This arrow that shows here. The self always feeds unto itself throughout life. Whatever we are speaking in terms of this house graduation is a throughout life process, folks. It's not a one-time thing. It's a continuous, ever-evolving situation. So you have the first house, which feeds into itself, meaning you are constantly re-evaluating yourself, and that makes you grow as a human being. If this evaluation is not very prominent in people, people don't grow through life. This is why you can see many people age, but they have not really matured. Aging does not guarantee maturity, folks. This is just one has to do the work oneself. This is what it shows, this arrow. Then we come to the other one. Some have spouses, some don't have spouses, some stay single, some get divorced. You have all kinds of situations. So what does that lead to? Whatever the 7th house is teaching you as your relationship to your significant other will feed back its energy to yourself. And that requires self-reflection. Again, what just happened? Or who is this thing called my spouse or my husband or my wife or my lover? The self has to again evaluate, because this house is feeding back into the first house. So whatever your significant other and yourself Both lead to the transformation of self. And because this is the Kendra house, remember the part one we talked about the importance of the Kendra houses or the foundations of your life. So whatever is going on in this 4 blocks, the shaded ones, is going to predominantly affect your life. It's going to shake the foundations of your life. These are your foundational energies. This is how people change because of relationships, romantic relationships or business partnerships. Suppose your business partnership is not going very well. Suppose the partner is very deceptive or a cheating kind of person or wants to take away all your money and run away someplace. So that experience is feeding from the 7th house to the 1st house. It will change your outlook of life. Whatever goes on in your 7th house with your spouse, with your marriage, with your relationships will affect you. Because this is the energy it is feeding you. That's why it is so crucial to focus on your relationship, because it is affecting the 2 main Kendra houses. Okay. This self is not feeding onto the others. The other is feeding into you. This is how the external world or the external closest self is going to affect your outlook, your perceptions, your beliefs, your experiences, and what you think is true or not true through life. So you got to examine the planets and points, and if you don't know where they are, you can contact me on my Facebook below. So this is one aspect of it, which we are checking, okay, in a chart. Remember this is very important to understand it the way it is. So first from the 1st house is the self. 7th place from the 7th house is the 1st house. So this Bhavad Bhavam or this concept of higher self of houses is based on numerology, pretty much. So here we see the numerology of one. First from the 1st place is the self. Self-examination is required a lot in life. This is the path to maturity. This is the path to achieving or going towards the higher self. You want to go towards the higher self. The whole exercise here is to unravel how we can go beyond our karmic path, beyond our propensities and desires, and to get to that place which we call the higher self. To integrate it more with our life, not to pop out and go into the heaven somewhere, but to integrate it and bring it in our daily life. Okay? That's the objective here, if you want to know that. So now we come to 2nd house and 8th house. The higher self of 2nd house and the higher self of 8th house, which are opposite to each other. Now, if you recall the part 1, we spoke of what does the 2nd house stands for. Let's review. Your family, the family you were born in, or the family you create later on if you get married and have kids and everything else. Your family, stability of life, and the wealth you earn, your own earning by your work in the world. Work, job, business, whatever it is. The 8th house is the opposite of that. That is others' family. When I say others' family, it pertains to what is gained from the marriage, which is in the 7th house. Remember, we spoke about the 7th house of a marriage, how it affects self, because it all comes down to self. We are talking about the higher self. So, the gain of the 7th house is in the 8th house. That means it's your in-laws. 7th house is the stability. What stability it provides, because it's the foundation of life. It's one of the Kendra houses. 8th house is the instability of life, the ups and downs of situations, your luck, when it runs out or when it becomes a gain. This fluctuates through time, right? Different phases of life. And it represents others' wealth. As in, whatever your inheritance is. Suppose you're inheriting a lot of wealth from, as a result of having very rich in-laws, that might be inherited wealth or inherited wealth from others. It's others' wealth. As much as house number 2 is your wealth, house number 8 is other people's wealth, whatever your inheritance may be. Your good luck factor. The luck factor also comes with that, or bad luck factor, whichever way you choose to look at it. But let's get back to the higher self. So the 8th house, 8 from the 8th house is house number 3. House number 3, which stands for your ability, short travels, individuality, expenses of self. It also stands for the initiation of sexual desire, by the way. There are many things of the third house. You can look up my video, which house represents what? The houses of Vedic astrology. Second house, second from the second house also feeds onto the third house. So the third house becomes critical as a receiver of all energies of what happens in your second house, depending upon how well placed your second house is and how well placed your eighth house is. Okay? This is what happens here. So what happens in your second house in your chart and whatever is happening or how well placed your eighth house is, both will feed back to your third house. In terms of higher self, I can summarize this as whatever happens in your family, whatever is the stable elements of your life, or how stable do you feel your life is, or eighth house, how unstable your life is, as opposed to stability, will determine your individuality. What you think as individual, who am I, and how you spend and develop your skills, your abilities, everything will depend upon what happens in your second house, how much earned wealth you have, because that will determine how much expenses you want to spend for yourself. If you have wealth, you can spend it. You cannot spend possibly wealth you don't have. And what happens in eighth house if your life is too unstable, constantly fluctuating situations at home or at career or in your relationships or in life, generally too many ups and downs. What's going to happen is that's going to change your sense of individuality and how you act in the world. Third house also stands for arms, how you function. Arms are the way we function in the world. Your hands, what you bring as your actions, you require your two hands. Third house also stands for hands. So what you will create with your hands, look at the symbols here, will depend upon what is happening in your second house and what is happening in your eighth house, because both those results of these second and eighth houses, the opposites, are being fed into the third house. Okay? Think of it that way. Moving on to the third and the ninth house, these opposites. The third from the third house is the fifth house, right? You see third here, fourth, fifth, 2 and 3, third place. Ninth house, ninth place from the ninth house is also the fifth house. So whatever goes on in your third house, your abilities, your skills, your basic education, your individuality, the expenses you make for yourself, okay? And the opposite aspect of that, what you develop as your philosophy of life, what you think of your personal philosophy of life. When I say philosophy of life, it's personal for everyone, right? So this means whatever your personal philosophy that you develop through life, through your foreign travels, if you ever go abroad to different places, your view of the world, which develops as a result of the above two, life philosophy and foreign travels, and your expenses for others, expenses for self in the third, opposite is expenses for others. All of these aspects that go on in your ninth house and your third house both feed back to fifth house. Now, what is fifth house? Your creativity. The creative intelligence is fifth house. Your real sense of self, it also stands for the gut, the belly. Your loves, your romantic loves, your desires. That's the gain of your personal wealth. When I say wealth, not your bank account, not how much bank balance you have, or not how many physical money or finance related riches you have. It's the true wealth of your creative power, your creative intelligence in the wealth, your sense of self. Who do you think you are? That sense of self. Because that's what you will bring to the world in the form of your loves, your desires, which keep changing through life. Right? So it is fed from the third house. What you gain as your skills, third house, what you do with your hands, third house, will eventually determine what kind of education you will do. Suppose earlier in your life you are a very handsy kind of person, so you will want to carry out education and do something as handsy related stuff. Suppose you're an artist in the third house. That artist may become very creative artist later on in life. And their philosophy of life and foreign travel may also determine what they do further in life with that creativity. See how the higher self develops through third and ninth house. You can take it to all aspects of third house, all aspects of the ninth house, and see how it is feeding your fifth house in your chart. Okay? That's the third and ninth opposite. We come to the seventh house. What feeds your idea of what the spouse is? What is your relationship with your love interest? What is your relationship with your lover? Or what you look for in relationships? How it shifts through life is what this one is all about. What are the determining factors? Well, first of all, what was your sense of your father and what was your sense of your mother? Because fourth from the fourth house is the seventh house, and 10th from the 10th house is also your seventh house. So that's how this is feeding in. The information is being fed. And remember, all these three are Kendra houses, so it's very, very crucial. It is the determining factor. How a person treats the spouse, treats the lover, treats the interest, boyfriend or girlfriend is dependent upon how they were brought up and what is their sense, individually speaking, because each one, even if they are siblings, they have different sense of what their father was and what their mother was. Because mother will determine, the fourth house will determine the heart, your heart center, and what you think of in your mind, or how good or bad the father was. So the houses may be exalted, or a person may be having a very good fourth house in their chart, or a person may be having a very good 10th house, or bad ones in either case, or one may be good or one may be bad. Depending upon what the chart says, the 10th house, you might think your career. I'm thinking in terms of father and mother here, because it talks about the sense of other, the sense of self. Even goes to business relationships, by the way, because 7th house also stands for relationships in business. Whom you do business with, are they trustworthy or not? You can look at their charts and determine this before you enter any business relationship, for example. Okay. So here, what your father was, because it's your chart. We are not talking about your spouse's chart here. Their spouses, their chart will be according to what their parents were. We are talking about an individual chart here. So understand that your sense of father and what your father meant to you in your life, in terms of what you thought the father was in intimate terms. What is intimacy mean to your father or meant to your father? What does intimacy mean to your mother, and how you saw that as the self? Because remember, we spoke of the house number 1, this feeding into this one. This is how the Kendras affect one another. Okay, this is how one area of life affects the core of you. We are talking about the core of you here. So it's important to understand that this sense of the spouse will feed into the first also, which we looked at the first one, but also your sense of father and the intimate aspect, because 7th house is intimate aspect, the marriage that happens. What you're essentially marrying here is the sense of what your father's sense of intimacy was, or how cold or aloof he was, or how gentle and feminine he was, feeding into that energy of what your sense of relationship is. What are you looking for in your relationship? As well as what goes on in your mother's house, which is the 4th house. How good your mother was. Was she gentle and caring? Or if the mother was intimate and the father was cold and aloof. Father was intimate and the mother was cold and aloof. That's the sense of intimacy you will bring to your relationships. This is what it means. Therefore, that's why it's very, very crucial for you to understand how these houses are functioning in your natal chart, because that is the sense of intimacy you will bring to the other one. You can change this provided you know this. This is the conscious awareness, folks. Higher self is all about conscious awareness. It's not an unconscious drifting through life. This is why I'm bringing this knowledge to you. So you can analyze your charts, or you can get in touch with me on Facebook and we can analyze how this is playing up. Maybe for you, maybe for your spouse. Relationships are very crucial because they are the foundations of your life. Now let's look at the ninth house. What is going on in your ninth house? It is fed from two houses in your chart, in your natal chart. We are talking only of natal charts here for the moment. So the 11th place from the 11th house is the ninth house. That's the arrow that is being indicated over here. And the 5th place from the 5th house is also the ninth house. So what is the 5th house stands for? Your personal sense of wealth. Personal sense of wealth means who you think you are, what have you gained in life as a self, your sense of creativity, your sense of creative intelligence and purpose, which comes from the gut. This also stands for the stomach. You have to feel it in your belly. The sense of self, the sense of what you love, what your desires are, how they shift through life. All this is the 5th house, your gut. The 11th house also stands for the eyes. Okay, the ankle, really speaking. The 9th house is the thighs. So 11th house stands for giving creativity. Here you're exploring your own sense of personal creativity. Here, opposite house of 5th, you're giving away creativity to the community. Your sense of community. 5th house is the sense of self. 11th house is the sense of community, where you belong in a community. Your fulfillment of love and desires, whether you do get fulfilled in life with all your needs of love, romance, desires, etc. Whether this house is strong or weak in your chart. Your gain as wealth from others. When I say gain of wealth from others, it may be in terms of adoration, in terms of appreciation, recognition, and also in terms of physical wealth as money, finance. The reason is because we look at the 5th house, it's all about self-wealth, what you feel inside as you. That only you can gain from the previous one we saw, which 3rd house is feeding into the 5th house, right? We saw that one. The 3rd and 9th feeding into the 5th house. Now we are looking at what feeds into the 9th house. So as you can see, they are all interconnected. If I put them all in one chart, you'll get really confused because it all leads finally back to the self. That's how we get to the higher self. But anyway, so we see that one is a personal sense of wealth as what you see inside yourself. And eventually, as you move through all of these areas of life and as you age and mature, you will reach this sense of giving your creativity to the world. Because your creativity doesn't mean anything unless you're giving something away to the world. That's what it says, folks. You have to have a sense of community. That's where your fulfillment of desires comes from the external. 11th house is all external. 5th house is very internal and in your gut center. And that's how you gain the wealth from others. That's how you gain the money, the appreciation, the recognition, the fame. All of it you gain from the 11th house. So 5th house and 11th house both feed into what? What is the 9th house? That's what determines your philosophy of life. That's what you gain from your foreign travels. The gain of all of this comes back and feeds into this 9th house of yours. So depending upon how well the 9th house is doing, 11th house is doing, and 5th house, you can see your sense of worldview. That's how some people are very narrow-minded. Some people never develop a good broad view or a liberalistic view of the world. Some people are never accepting of other race, cultures, religion, because your worldview is determined by what you think about yourself and what you are giving away to the community. Whether there is a sense of connect between the 5th and 11th house in your chart, will determine what kind of life philosophy you follow, how broad or narrow minded it is, and how much you will spend for others. Some people always keep spending for themselves, they never spend anything for others. That's a true life philosophy. That's how you are living your life. Okay, so that's this particular one. Now we come to the last one, which is the essence of your work as I see it, is the 6th house and the 12th house. 6th house, what does it stand for? Work for self, whatever work you're doing as your job, as your career, your daily routine. It stands for the waking hours. It stands for known enemies, the enemies that you have in the world, which you know they are your enemies. They stand for small illnesses, cold cough, that kind of a thing. It stands for energy expense for self. You're expending energy in the 6th house for yourself. And 6th from the 6th house is the 11th house, which is giving away your creativity to a sense of community that you have. And it fulfills your desires, or you gain wealth from others, you earn money from others, external world, because you go work somewhere and they are paying you for something. Whether it be job or business, it doesn't matter. That's how it plays out, because 6th house feeds into the 11th house. So what work you do for yourself as a job, career, business, in the waking hours, with the known enemies that you know are your enemies, with all your aches and pains, you are expending that energy daily, which is feeding into the 11th house right there, up there, in the yellow box. So that gives you a sense of where you are creating, in the sense of community, because you are creating within a community. You're going to work in an office, or you're going to work in a shop, or you have your own restaurant, or whatever it is. That's what it's feeding to. That determines your gains. Another thing that determines your gains is the 12th house. Now, the 12th house is opposite to the 6th house, as you can see, and it stands for service to others. We call it also the spiritual house or the moksha house, which we'll talk about in a later video. So it talks about sleeping hours. 12th house stands for sleeping hours, as opposed to 6th house, which is for waking hours. So what you do in the night, your sexual life, how much amount you sleep, and what you dream, your psychic powers and intuition, everything comes from the 12th house, because it stands for the night time. 6th house, think of it as standing for the daytime. So we have day and night, and how it plays out in your chart, the 12th and 6th houses, determines whether you're spending more time in intuition, introverted. 12th house is very introverted also. It stands for hidden enemies, as opposed to 6th house, which is known enemies. We all have hidden enemies, the enemies who hide. Sometimes they are in plain sight, sometimes they are within our family, sometimes they are within our friends or colleagues, at work or business, or even relationships. These are the hidden enemies who scheme against us, who tend to do things behind our back, tend to gossip, tend to take us down. It also stands for chronic illnesses, and I won't name them here, but you know what the chronic illnesses are. One which requires you to get into a hospital. It also stands for hospitalization, by the way. It's energy expense only for others. 6th house, you're doing all the work for yourself, energy expense for yourself and family. 12th house is where you're giving away all of that to others. And when I said 12th house is giving away all of that, it is like the gain of the 11th house. So in 11th house, you are gaining all the money, all the loves, your desires, your fame and recognition. To do what with it? Finally, the end game is to give it away. Whatever you have gained, even if you're the richest multimillionaire or billionaire on this planet, you're finally giving away your wealth. That's the 12th house. So the gain of the 11th house is really the 12th house, meaning whatever you are giving away as wealth to others, as service to others, and whatever you're working for self, if this is in balance, if the house number 6 and house number 12 in your chart is balanced as per the planet placement and all the rest of it, only then and only then will you have the real sense of community. Only then you'll have real fulfillment of what your true love is and what your true desire is. And what is the hunt for that, for the prized catch, what you call as my life? How fulfilled do you feel in all areas of love's desires, money, in the sense of fame and recognition in the world, which is the 11th house? Because remember, 11th house is the gain of the 10th house, which is also stands for career, job, business, what you're doing. The gain of the 10th house is in the 11th house. But that comes, the final fruits of the 11th house comes from what you work for self in the 6th house and what you give away to others in the 12th house as a community. Then only then you will know what the real meaning or the higher self of the 6th and 12th house is. That's what's gained. That's what's the sense of community which is real, which you are working towards in the 6th house and which you're giving away to others in your 12th house. Okay? So in the next series, we will be dealing with how these houses are playing in terms of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, the 4 pillar foundations as told by Vedic Astrology. So keep a watch on my channel and subscribe so you can follow these parts. Take care, be safe and have a great day.